My boyfriend Ben 28M, and I 25F, have been dating for almost 2 years. While our relationship is not perfect, it's pretty damn close. Our biggest disagreement was when I switched oat milk brands and he kept forgetting and bringing the other brand. We're both quite naturally calm people and prefer a constructive discussion to a heated argument. This is why what happened last week caught me off guard. Towards the beginning of our relationship, when we weren't exclusive, Ben had a fling with a coworker. Let's call her Steph. He is the head of IT at a major firm and she works in a different department, so they only see each other occasionally, even more so now that he switched to remote work 2 days a week. When he told me about their fling and I talked to my friends about it, they said I wasn't allowed to be bothered about it as our relationship wasn't defined at the time and they only slept together once. Some days I will fixate on it and wonder if he talked to Steph at work and if she still fancied him. I know I'm not allowed to monitor his interactions with anyone and would never try to control him, but it does make me feel something when I think about him even being near her. I don't know if it's jealousy or insecurity or even if it's rational. Anyway, last week we got invited to a dinner party hosted by his boss. I'd been to a couple of his office parties before but only interacted with a couple people and usually was glued to Ben's side all night since I am a bit of an introvert. From my immediate impression, Ben's boss is a bit of a rich prick, but he knew how to throw a good enough party that I began to loosen up and interact with more than 2 people all night. As a teacher, I've always felt insecure around people who make so much more money than me and always felt like they looked down on me, but that couldn't have been further from the truth. I was immediately included on the inside jokes, made a couple of my own, and even got invited to a double date with one of his co-workers and his wife. While Ben was grabbing me some food, one of his friends made a passing comment about Steph. She was at the party but stayed away from the group we were hanging out with. I said I don't care about her, but I also have nothing to talk to her about, which is true. I wasn't about to go compare notes with her, and the fact that she did stay away from us did put me at ease and made me not as wary of her. His friend laughed and said, well then you might feel the same way about Molly. Molly was another co-worker of Ben's who I had actually gotten on with the whole night. I was confused and didn't understand what he was trying to say. When he saw my reaction, he completely clammed up, but I demanded he explain himself. Another one of his friends from the group said that Molly and Ben slept together. To say I was shocked is an understatement. I then asked how many other girls Ben had slept with from the office and they told me they knew of 4 different girls. At that point Ben came back, unaware his friends had spilled his secrets, but picked up on the tense atmosphere. Internally I was fuming and hurt, but I kept a cool facade, and when Ben asked what was wrong I just looked at him and said, your friends were just informing me that you're the office slut. He looked shocked and I left to go to the bathroom to calm down. I knew if I stayed at this party any longer I would have a breakdown and needed to leave. So I went straight to our car and drove home without telling him. When I got back home I replied to his numerous texts about where I was and told him I came home and he could find his own way back. He got home around an hour after me, and by that time I had already cried my feelings out and was ready to have a conversation. He came into the house absolutely livid, which I didn't understand because he was the one who lied to me. He's never even raised his voice at me for anything before, but he was shouting about how I embarrassed him and word had gotten around to his other co-workers because I reacted immaturely. I tried to explain my position, that how would he feel if he found out I had slept with 4 of my co-workers and never told him. He just kept reiterating that he never had a relationship with them and it was just sex. I knew going into our relationship he was way more experienced than me sexually, but I refused to believe he could sleep with these women and not feel anything for them. But that is beside the point, and he should have told me. But all he is hung up on is that I insulted him to his friends. When he was done yelling he said he was going to stay at his brother's house to calm down and not to contact him until he cooled down. I told him I wouldn't contact him first because I'm not in the wrong, he is. It's been a week since he's been at his brother's house and we still haven't talked. I have no clue where we go from here. Was I wrong to react the way I did? I didn't think I was, but now I'm second guessing myself. I didn't think calling him the office slut would elicit this reaction, but I don't think it was a lie either. Should I apologize or wait for him to make the first move? My issue is not so much with him sleeping with the other women but hiding it. I texted him this morning saying, hey, I know you asked me not to contact you first, but I've given you a week and really feel like we need to have a conversation. I hope you've been doing okay. I didn't want to start apologizing or questioning him over text. I did that about 6:30 before I left for work and was teaching all day, so I knew I wouldn't be able to constantly check my phone. It's lunchtime right now and he's responded saying he's at work, which is confusing because Friday and Monday are his remote work days, so I don't understand why he's gone in. I texted back and said we can talk after work if he wanted to come home, and he agreed. I honestly have no clue how tonight is going to go. I really don't want to break up. I know a lot of you are gonna say I don't have a backbone for messaging him first, but I haven't been able to eat or sleep all week and it's been so mentally and physically exhausting. My workload this week has been crushing and this added stress has made me reach my limit. Update. Hey everyone, it's Saturday and I'm still in bed and thought I should give an update. Before I do, I just wanted to clarify one thing. I switched from Pro to Oatly, and it's much better. Also, I'm paraphrasing since I can't remember everything we said. So I was quite nervous about Ben coming over after work. I was meant to do some work but was too distracted to even attempt it. I did, however, as a gesture of good faith, decide to cook his favorite meal for him and maybe use it as an icebreaker. I did take someone's advice of writing everything down just so I could keep my thoughts clear. After work I texted asking him what time he would be over and he said he'd text me when he left work and takes him about 30 minutes on the tube to reach home. He got here about 6-ish and rang the doorbell, which was so weird. He still had his keys. I opened the door and we kinda awkwardly greeted each other. Immediate impression was that he didn't look angry or upset, just cold. I sat down on the sofa and expected him to join me, but he just stood in the middle of the room with his hands in his trousers. I said I was glad he came over and he just nodded. Then I said it was weird being in his house by myself all week, and all he said was I'm sure it was. He asked me why I texted him now and not sooner, and I said it was because he told me not to contact him. I told him I had been miserable and that I was sorry for the comment I made and leaving, and especially for taking his car. He said he didn't give a shit about the car, just that I had left without telling him. I got a chance to finally explain myself to him. I never cared how many women he slept with before. I'd known he was a bit of a fuckboy before we got together, and never held it against him. I just hated being blindsided and feeling like I knew less about my boyfriend than some random coworkers. I asked why he didn't just tell me since he knew I'd be around them, and he said honestly didn't think it was important and mattered to me. I called bullshit because he knows how I am and he knew it would matter. He admitted he did regret sleeping with those women as he never thought about having to bring his future girlfriend around them and tell her about it. 2 of them happened when he first joined the company straight out of uni. One of those girls has left already and the other is actually dating Ben's friend who told me about Molly. He said at that point of his life he was fine sleeping around and never really thought of the consequences. I asked why his friend decided to even say anything to me about it, and he said they always try to piss each other off, and one thing that gets Ben annoyed is when someone brings up his fuckboy ways. He said after I left his friends felt bad for what they said, but I told him I never would have reacted that way if I had known, and he should have told me. He said I was trying to justify my response after apologizing. I told him I didn't want to do that. I do genuinely think what I said and did was wrong, but he could put all the blame on me. He said the only thing he could apologize for is sleeping with a bunch of women, and since that was before me it didn't make any sense. I kept saying it was the hiding bit that upset me, and he asked what difference would it had made if I had known. I did think about that for a moment. I still would have gone, but I think I would have been a bit more hyper-aware of the Molly and the other girl. He said he wanted me to be there and have a good time and didn't want to ruin it by telling me about irrelevant shit in his past, and I guess I understood that sentiment because I decided to let it go. We both were quiet there for a moment and he asked if I was done, and if I was going to end it. Then I needed to pick another reason since this would be the stupidest reason. I told him I didn't want to break up and that we needed to talk about everything, but I wanted him to come sit next to me, and he did. So I asked if there were any others and he said no. I asked him who knew in the office and he said only his friend group, and they keep their mouth shut to everyone because all of them were doing the same shit. He told me he slept with Molly right before we met. I was curious about why he went into work today when it was his remote work day, and he said that his nieces wouldn't let him concentrate at home, so he just decided to go in. He did say he was furious last week and didn't know if he could move forward, but talking to his brother helped and he calmed him down. He said if I didn't text him he was planning on contacting me first today anyway so we could talk. So we didn't break up, I apologized, and while he didn't so the same, I have decided to let it go and move on. I told him I made his favorite meal and he finally kissed me and told me he missed me. Anyway, I know some of you are gonna say he should have dumped me straight away or I should have demanded an apology, but I'm happy with the outcome. I finally had a meal and good night's sleep. Even Ben said I looked like I had lost weight. Thank for the people who have messaged me offering me advice, and I really hope I never have to give another update. Honestly, if he was known for being a fuckboy at work, then he should have thought pretty hard about taking his girlfriend to the work party before doing it, or at least fessed up to her that he had a bad reputation from his behavior when he got right out of college. No one likes to hear this kind of shit about their partner from other people. Secondly, that friend of his is a gigantic asshole. It makes me wonder if Ben is a bit of an a-hole too. After all, birds of a feather flock together. But seriously, he shouldn't be friends with this guy. Lastly, I think OOP was justified in being upset at being blindsided like this, and the whole situation was handled pretty immaturely by both sides. Anyway, I concur with everyone else. I don't think this relationship is going to last. That was the first story, and now we are going to listen to today's second story. My 30M wife 31F of 5 years cheated on me last year with her friend when she was out with her friend group. She used to this often, but always came back at around 12 a.m. But this time she came home very late at around 5 a.m. and drunk, and I didn't press the issue that night. She was distant, and didn't talk much to me afterwards. The next few days, I only found out a couple days later when she confessed to cheating after I kept asking her why she was so cold to me. I was shocked. I never liked the fact that she went out to bars and clubs, but she never gave me a reason to distrust her, until that night. I immediately grabbed a bag, packed some stuff, and left. She was begging me to talk about it, but I wasn't in the mood for it. I was angry, upset, sad. I know that I was not in the right headspace for this kind of talk, so I stayed with a friend. Fast forward a few days later, and I agreed to talk to her. She said she was so sorry and would never happen again, and that she would do anything to make me stay. I spent the time I was away thinking of staying or leaving, and I hate the fact that I still love her. We don't have kids together, but part of me still wanted to stay. I gave her certain conditions if she wanted me to stay. The first one is to never see the man she cheated on me with ever again. The second was that I could see her phone or computer anytime I wanted without having to ask. The last one was that she could no longer go out to bars or clubs without me. She agreed to all of this. Over the last year, she's been estranged from her friend group because she can go out with them without seeing the man she cheated on me with, and she hasn't really made any new friends. I haven't checked her phone or computer either. I know she likes to go out, so I try my best to go with her when I have time. The bar and club scene was never my thing, but I try to enjoy it with her. Things haven't been the same as before, and I've thought loosening the she can go out without me rule, but I keep thinking of what she did. I've explained this to my friend, and she said I should just divorce her if I could trust her anymore. I've thought about it. I wasn't as happy as I used to be. She says she's happy with me around, but she isn't as energetic as she used to be. Update: I've talked to my wife, and we both reflected on our relationship. She still claims she wants to stay with me, and would respect my conditions no matter what. I asked her what she would do if I let go of the conditions. She told me she's truly ashamed of what happened, and she said she probably wouldn't go to a club or bar alone anymore. I asked about her old friends, and she told me that she doesn't want to be their friend anymore. She told me that they thought she was being unreasonable for not wanting to see the guy anymore, and that's just how he is. Basically, they refused to cut the guy off, and they didn't like that my wife had a problem with him. I never asked her about this before, because I didn't care about how my condition was met. All that I cared about was that it was met. I've opened up a bit more, and how our life now is pretty dull. She said she's aware our relationship isn't the way it was before. I asked her if she wants things to change, but she said she doesn't feel that she has the right to ask me for anything. She said she's aware it's her fault our relationship is like this. I mentioned couples therapy, and she immediately said that it was a good idea. I still resent her, but from what I can tell, she does want to make this work. I can't fully trust her yet. I still remember when she first said that there was nothing to worry about. We decided to start couples therapy. I'll be honest though, the only reason I'm willing to do this is because she has followed my conditions for a year, but I don't think this is gonna help me trust her ever again. If therapy doesn't work, then I'll leave. This marriage is basically doomed. OOP just doesn't want to admit it yet. The fact that over a year has gone by before OOP brought up couples therapy and still hasn't asked his wife why she cheated says a lot about the state of their relationship. I'm guessing it's been dead for some time before the wife cheated, but instead of dealing with the underlying issues, OOP dealt solely with the cheating. Meanwhile, the wife now feels she can bring up the issues due to her cheating, ignoring that said issues likely led to the cheating in the first place. This is some circular, Ouroboros level behavior. Hopefully a good couples therapist can either get them to address their issues and properly work on them, or get one both to realize the relationship needs to end because it is not sustainable in this way. Thanks for listening everyone. If you enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Red Relationships to never miss a future upload.